We are continuing our classes for Python for data analytics, and today we are going to learn about a module that is called JSON module. JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation, and the JSON module in Python is used to work with obviously JavaScript Object Notation data. JSON is a lightweight data interchange format that is easy for humans to read and write and easy for machines to parse and generate. Python's JSON module provides functions to convert between Python objects and JSON. I'm giving you a very simple example here. So let's write lyrics OVH API. So there are many open source libraries that can be used to learn JSON, and one of them is lyrics OVS library. And here you can see in this library you have reference, you have search, etc., right? So this is called the documentation page of a library or a documentation page of a API. It mostly looks like this, and in the documentation you can see we are getting a URL here. This URL says here you have to type the name of artist and here you have to name title. So if you will simply copy this URL and paste in browser, you will see currently we are getting no lyrics found. Okay. If we are going to use uh, Firefox browser, Mozilla Firefox browser, then you will see a better response. It is JSON raw data headers, right? So here you can see it is again showing no results or no lyrics found. But let's say we enter some artist name here and some title name. For example, Maroon 5 and Sugar. Maroon 5 is a band, Sugar is their song. So you will see the lyrics, right? Similarly, you can write any artist name and their song title name here, and it will give you the lyrics of that particular song. It is a very simple case. Now, when you will see raw data here, so you would recognize this raw data, right? This raw data is nothing but this is lyrics, and in lyrics you are finding out output. So this is a key, lyrics is the key, and this is the value. The lyrics that we are seeing here is a value. So it's basically a key value pair and it is inside curly brackets. So for us who have studied Python, this more looks like, this looks like a dictionary in particular. Similarly, this is a website called Financial Modeling Preparation. As the name suggests, it is for financial modeling of data. So here you can search your query. Query string can be something like AAPL for Apple, etc. Here you can find out, for example, if you have searched AA. So what is the symbol in NASDAQ exchange that are related to AA? The output that you are getting here is a list. Inside list you are getting all dictionaries, and inside your dictionaries, every dictionary you will see the same code. For example, this is a sample query, and in the sample query you can see all the company names starting with AA. What is, we say AAPL, then it will give you the code of Apple, right? This is Apple Inc. code, and stock exchange is NASDAQ Global Select. So, for example, here is the financial statement of that particular stock symbol, AAPL. So, for some JSON APIs, you have to provide a API key. For some of them, you can simply, you know, visit openly. So that's why we are going to read the JSON module today, and we will learn how to read and process this JSON data with Python. So why use JSON? JSON is commonly used to exchange data between a server and a web application, and it stores structured data. Examples, configurations, or logs can be stored in JSON. And important part is it can share data between different programming languages. Suppose my database is in MySQL or PostgreSQL or any other programming of SQL, but still I want to share some public data with some of my users. So I can create a program that will display the output in form of a JSON, and then someone from any other programming language can start reading the data, right? So that's why data sharing between uh, server and a web application can be done via JSON. And JSON is used everywhere. Like, for example, there is another website that is called Rapid API. Okay. So in Rapid API, you will find multiple APIs for testing. You can find APIs for any product, right? For any type of data. For example, if I write Rapid API cricket, so all live cricket scores like cricket live data, cricket API, cricket API free data. If you write football, so whenever a football match is going on or a cricket match is going on, you can get that data for free here, right? For testing purpose. Even if your own company has a data and you want to provide some of them as a public data, some of that data you want to provide as authentic with authentication, so you can use API keys, etc. So we will see more examples, but JSON is important thing here to learn. Now, when you will install Python in your computer, JSON will be installed. JSON library will be there included, but you have to import it in your project whenever you have to start it. So first line we will use is import JSON, and then what you can do, we can convert Python objects to JSON. For example, the process of converting Python object into a JSON string is called serialization or encoding. So the first is JSON dot dumps method. So in JSON there is a method called JSON dot dumps, and supported Python data type for JSON conversion are either a dictionary. You just saw most of these outputs are in form of a dictionary, right? If there is a error, then also that error is also in form of a dictionary. You can see we have a key, we have a value, and similarly list or tuple can also be converted. String value can also be converted. Int, float, true, false, none can also be converted. First, let's see some example. Now we will create a simple dictionary. So after importing JSON, we will create a simple dictionary here. So in this dictionary, we have three keys: name, age, and is a student. So we will simply load this. Obviously, this is data. When you will ask Python what is the type of data, so it will tell you dictionary. So this is an important thing, and that's how you can simply read the data. First of all, processed JSON data. Now let's run how to convert it. To convert it, we will just create a JSON string. So the idea is to convert this dictionary type of object into a string. For that, we use the method that is called json.dumps, and in json.dumps, we will provide data. So the parameter that we are providing here, make sure that it is one of them, right? So it can be a dictionary, list, tuple, string, etc. And when you will try to print your JSON string, so obviously you are going to see the same kind of output. But if you will ask Python what is the type of JSON string here, so it will tell you it is a string object. So remember, to convert JSON to string, you have to remember a method that is called dumps method. We are basically dumping the JSON data into a string value. And now since you have got a string, you can do different things with it. So this is a simple example. You import JSON and write json.dumps. We will see more practical usage just in a bit. Then there is something called JSON pretty print. Basically, when you receive a JSON output, sometimes it is very hard to read. In order to pretty print JSON with formatting options, you can copy this. For example, this is json.dumps data, and you can write indent is equal to 4. So when you will do this, see here we were seeing the entire output in one line. Here we are seeing the entire output like this. So here you can search a lot of APIs. Okay. For example, these are all the APIs related to movie. Let's say this is IMDb. IMDb, provides information about movies. So you want to get movies and show ratings. Let's say we'll click movie here. Okay. Now here it will give you a simple option to import the client. Okay. And when you it will give you the entire code, and here it will give you the example response also. Okay, for example, rating for Shawshank Redemption movie. So here it is showing we have got 5 keys, and all these keys and values we are going to get. Okay, so you can simply subscribe here to test this. We will just see how to do that, but here also you can see the output is in a pretty format, right? Pretty JSON pretty format is very much needed. Otherwise, it will be very difficult to read the data. So it will simply convert it like this: key value, key value, key value. So you have to convert it in this format to read it. And what is the parameter that we are going to use? Indent is equal to 4. This is something that we are going to do later, but just remember this, that there is something called JSON pretty print. Now, after JSON pretty print, we can also sort keys. Okay, you can sort the keys in JSON output. For example, let's see the simple output here. So here we have only used json.dumps. In json.dumps, first argument is your data. Second, you use parameter indent and write its value as 4 here. And here you also use json.dumps data indent is equal to 4, sort keys is equal to true. So in this case, you can see key age will come first, then is student, then name. Okay. So this way sorting of keys will be there. And this is not necessarily needed, but we are just learning that the json.dumps method here supports them. If you will write json.dumps here and just write a square bracket, oh sorry, curly bracket, so you will also see its entire details, right? Like serialize object to a JSON formatted string, you can see skip keys, ensure ASCII, check circular. There are a lot of things that we can do here. For example, sort keys, you know, separators, tuple, etc. So you have to remember that every method that we are learning here might have different type of the arguments or parameters. Now we will learn how to convert JSON to a Python object. So first part was to convert Python to a JSON object. This will be important when you are creating your own APIs. You are creating your own APIs and you want to print, you know, data as a JSON data. So for that you can do this. But if mostly what we will be doing is we will be converting or loading the data from different tools and reading here. So that's why this is needed. So first we will import JSON that we have already done. Then we will have our data which we already have. So here also let's convert JSON to Python object. Okay, and read data. So for example, let's read this. What is the difference here? Here we have a string. You can see this is a string. Although it's a dictionary, like the value inside the string is a dictionary, but you have to remember whenever you will read data from URL, whenever you will read data from these APIs, let's say I subscribe to test. From here you can see you can, you know, make 10 requests per day. So let's start the free plan and subscribe here. And you can see when I have tested the endpoint here, this as a text you will see this type of output we will get. This is the JSON output, right? So here you can see many keys and values. So whatever API you are testing, I'm just giving you example of a movie rating. You can use cricket API, football API, financial data API, news API, anything can be found there, right? So the output that you will get from those files will always be a numerical out, a string output, right? So first you have to do is, first what you have to do, use json.load and load the JSON string. Earlier we were using json.dumps. Here we are using json.load. So when you have to convert the data, convert string data to Python object, then you will use json.loads. When you have to convert JSON data into a string format, you will write json.dumps. When will we use it? When we are creating our own APIs. Okay. Suppose we are creating our own API and we want to publish our output as a JSON. Then in that case, we can use json.dumps. But suppose we are reading a API, reading data from a API. In that case, we will do this. So in data analysis, both of them are needed, but we mostly read data. So JSON is like a data source for us, right? When you will simply write json.loads JSON string, print data, so it will give us the data. First of all, let me show you. We will see no difference here. Okay. Now, if we will say what is the type of data, so you will see now it's a dictionary. So earlier it was a string, and with the help of json.loads, we have simply converted into a dictionary. And after converting it into a dictionary, if we say, now suppose we have to print age of this student. So what we'll write data age. So when you will write data age, you will get an output as 25, right? So because we have learned dictionary in previous chapter, which you should go and revise also. So, in so whenever you have to get a key, you will just do it like this, right? This is an example which is showing how to read JSON data. Now, in this case, the output was, the input was stored as a JSON string in the document itself. What if we have to work with JSON files? Okay, to save a JSON string to a file, like this time we want to create a JSON file. Okay, so what we are going to do, we are going to see a simple example. Here, let's say our data is name Bob, age 30, is student true. Okay, this is our data. Now we will learn how to write JSON to a file. So here we are going to use with open data.json write as a file json.dump, and in json dump first this is data, and because we are using this particular file, so you are dumping the data in a file and indent is equal to 4. Remember, in json.dumps, if we just have to dump data here itself, we can simply write data, because here we are putting data inside this particular JSON or this particular variable here. But here with open data.json w as file, so this particular line will simply read or simply write your data into a file. Okay, and let's say we want to see more, we want to learn more about this open method. So in open method, you have, if you want to read the data, you will write R. Okay, so open file and return a stream. File is either a text or byte. Okay, so here we have either R or W. So if we want to read, then the syntax will be different. So data.json r.read. But when we have to write something, it will be like this. Now, whenever we are working with Colab, Google Colab, if you are using any other IDE like Python idle or a Jupyter notebook, in that case, it might be different. But when you are working with Google Colab, so in case of Google Colab, you can simply see we have a file option here. When you will click on file option, you will see we have, you know some sample data. So this is the space. So because we have a disk space available, 76 GB disk space. Okay, now let's run this. So after running this, let's try to refresh, and now you can see this new file is there. We can download the file. From here we can download the file. You can see our JSON file is now downloaded, and when you will open the JSON file, you will see output like this. So now your JSON file is created, and now you can share it with people, right? This is a simple thing. So here we have simply hosted the data.json file, and now you can see on this URL, you can also visit it, you can try. And after taking that data, we just converted that structured data. This is structured data, right? We have key value pair data here. And after, you know, loading that structured data, we simply stored it on a URL. And when you will visit that URL, you will see the output. Okay, like this. Because we used indent there, so we are already seeing this indent. Indent is this, right? So we are already seeing an indent of 4, and data is already in a pretty format. So this is one way to load data, right? To write data to a JSON file. Now We can also read data from a file. Earlier we saw how to, you know, write data to a file, and to read data to a file, the only parameter change here is R. Here we were writing W, here we are going to write R, because at that time we were dumping the data, we are writing the data, so we use json.dump method, and there we wrote that we have to dump this data to this file, and indent is equal to 4. Indent 4 is this, right? But this time we are just reading the data. Now when we are reading the data, this might show an error. Let's see. Okay, it is not, so that is good. Otherwise in Colab, if this shows an error, so your file path will be just copy path, and this will be your file path. Okay, content JSON data.json. So the correct file path is always this. So whatever file you have uploaded on Google Colab, when you have to work with it, just write here and use copy path. And then for file path, just put it there. So this is with open data.json. You can write it like this. So now you can download any JSON file, and you can read the JSON file and convert it into a dictionary. And once you have converted it into a dictionary, you can use these different keys to see the different outputs. Okay, so this is read JSON and write JSON. I will share this file with you, so that, and everything is actually written in this URL, so you can go there and try all of this. Now important thing is how to handle JSON errors, because when we are working with JSON files, we will encounter errors like the string is not formatted in a proper way, or there can be a number of errors. So first, let's say this is invalid JSON. Invalid JSON because here, you know, we don't have closing dictionary. So basically this is a string, right? And we don't have any closing bracket here. So there may be case when developer has made some mistake, or by mistake we, type error or anything. So whenever you are using JSON.loads, so here you can use a try and except block. In some programming there is try catch, right? We can write try and except block. So first you can try. So how to write this? You write it like that. First you write try, then you write a colon, and then hit enter. When you will hit enter, you will see you will be having some indent here. Okay, and in your indent you have to write your code like json dot load invalid json. Then hit enter once again, and after hitting enter once again, just go back to the normal indent. Okay, the just starting of the file, and here you will write except. Okay, then again you will write a colon, and uh, in except you just have to write json dot, and this is the method json decode error. So basically if there is some error, we are decoding the error as e, and we will simply print e, whatever e is, right? So this is a simple way of printing what error you are getting. Okay, and on the basis of type of error you will be able to fix it. So here it is saying expecting value line 1 column 43 character 42. So it is expecting some value at line 1 here. Okay. If you will count, this may be the character 42 which is missing here. Now when we will change it, so let's try to change this to a small case, right? Now let's see. Now it is okay. So basically when we write in Python this will be false or true will always be written in capital. Okay. But when we are writing it inside a dictionary and trying to read the data inside JSON, in that case, you have to remember that true and false will be written as a small in a small case. So or lowercase. That is something that we have to just remember. So this is our invalid JSON. So for example, if you have to use numbers, you can write the numbers without single quote or double quote. But for Boolean data, you just have to use a small case here. So this is handling errors. Before doing all of this, what we have to learn is how to read JSON from a URL. So we just created a URL. Let's say we want to read data from this URL because this is something we are going to do a lot. Okay, reading data from a URL. So to read data from URL, we have shared two examples here. One example is import request example. So let's see this example. Here we have import request. So earlier we used a library import JSON. Now you just have to make a note whenever we have to deal with URL, whenever we have to read data from a URL. So this request method will be very helpful. Okay, request. So we import request, then whatever data is there inside that URL. So you are saying request.get URL. So to make it simpler, we can also write URL is equal to and whatever URL you have. So and here we will write json.get URL. So in our case, this is the URL, okay, where we save the data. So GhostTraining.in JSON test data.json. We will write response is equal to request.get URL and we will simply pass the response and print it. So first you will store the response. So response will be request.get URL. So this is 5 line of code, right? First you import request, then you write your URL. Response is equal to request.get URL because this is the library that we have imported. So request will help us. Request is a HTTP library. Basically for reading data from URLs, as I said. So you just write request.get URL and then your response, whatever your response is there, you just because the output of your response is a JSON file, right? So you will simply write data is equal to response.json. And when you will print data, you will get an error. Let's see why. So here you can see our code was correct. Basically, this is not currently giving output as a JSON. This is just a JSON file. So because it's a JSON file, so we cannot use the request library here. So import request URL is equal to this. So here we are just using the same lyrics.ovh API. So you can see what is this happening. We can see that we are now posting a request to a URL and URL is giving us this output. Let's say we want to see let's see title of other songs of Maroon 5. So one more song is Memories. Now you can see lyrics are changed.